Howdy there. Doe is here. Doe was here? Is that how we're gonna go about that? I don't know. John Doe, right? Whatever. Anyway, John Doe here, and I suppose in today's sort of rendition of whatever this is, I want to talk about kind of my struggles recently with my disorder and the frustrations I'm having because of it. So I I don't even know where to begin. Let's go with mood part of the bipolar disorder. Start with that. Um, Recently I had a pretty good interview going on. It was a three-stage interview. There was the initial person who just kind of introduces, I guess, and sees if the person's interested. And then there's a second round of interviews where they quiz you a bit more about, kind of your stance on things and trying to scope you out a bit. And then if that goes well and they like you, you go on to the third one where you actually interview with the CEO of the company. Now, personally, I do think that is very inefficient. Why is the CEO interviewing every single person that comes in? But at the same time, if it's their baby, like their business that they made, I get it, right? I get why they're doing that. It just feels kind of almost insulting because it feels like that means they don't trust the people below them to make that decision on their behalf of who should be in their company and who shouldn't. But I don't know. I'm not them. I don't know. Also, I've kept these unbuttoned. I kind of like the semi-informal look it gives me. So I'm going with it. I think it's fitting for this because I'm not trying to be too uptight with this. But the first two interviews, I did amazing. I was well rested. I was in a clear state of mind, and I was prepared. I was just whipping it out. It's a weird choice of words, but you understand what I mean. Anyway, what ended up happening is, unfortunately, I went into kind of a very hard point of I don't want to call it insomnia, but it's kind of close. See, I used to always work third shift before I moved here, and the kind of reasons why I even was willing to is because during my down cycles, I tend to stay up during the nighttime. And once the sun comes up, I just recluse away, right? I want to bury myself away because the only people I really bother talking to are people that are awake during nighttime during those times. So, other recluses like myself, and it's peaceful. I can go out, do things, and there's no one around. I can focus on myself, and it helps. But unfortunately, my interview was at 9 a.m., and I had been up almost 24 hours by that point. Again, all because I'm on a down cycle doesn't always mean that I'm sleeping these 12 to 13 hour blocks. Sometimes it's the exact opposite, and I'm just not sleeping at all, and then suddenly going to sleeping these 12 to 13 hour blocks. And that was no exception. It was kind of the beginning of my down cycle, and I had a whole 1 hour nap and then had to get back up, and I was off to a very bad start. My stomach, I don't know what in the world I ate, but as soon as I woke up, it was like the clock was ticking. It was time to go. Either I was going to get from point A to point B successfully, or my roommate was going to wake up to a different color of carpet. And that was an unfortunate situation because I was just stuck. And of course, because of that, I was now running kind of late. I was trying to get more sleep in, thinking all I'd have to do is wake up, throw on my clothes real quick. It's a Zoom meeting, so all I had to do was throw on the top, really, look pretty and get ready. But I was just, it was bad, and I didn't even get dressed first. So by the time I managed to get back to my computer, it was already the time that I was supposed to have the meeting. So I had to hurry up and throw on my clothes as fast as I could and just look somewhat good and hurry up and sign into the Zoom call. And I bombed it. I absolutely bombed it. And I knew right after I went to bed and woke up after that interview, I absolutely bombed it. And it's very frustrating because I can't tell. I don't like people that blame their disorder for everything, right? For people that have disorders, I don't like it, or illnesses or stuff. I don't like it when people use that as the excuse for everything in their life. And I sometimes feel like I'm doing that. A part of me says it's not my fault that, due to complications of this disorder, it was increasingly difficult for me to be in the right state of mind for that interview, even regardless of how important it was. But at the same time, I know that's not necessarily true, because I've been through much more important things in much worse states and did a heck of a lot better than I did in that interview. So I don't know what happened. I don't understand how I bombed it so bad. And I think kind of a part of it is I had already not really wanted to get in with that company. Like, I need a job and I need one quick, right? But there was a lot of red flags in the interview process about the company, and how they expected things to go and certain quotas to be met that were just unrealistic. They were statistically unrealistic. It was almost acute to like a pyramid scheme, if I'm being honest. And that's not to downplay what their mission is, and they're doing a wonderful thing, but it almost felt hostile. And I feel like, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I do feel like because I had such a negative mindset already about the company going into that final interview, that maybe there was no amount of preparation that was going to make me not bomb that final interview. I think it was just my own little stubborn streak in me that made it to where I really just, I couldn't fathom working there. And despite the fact I know I need the money, I every time I'd envision myself trying to do anything in this company, I just envision a wall. I envision a brick wall that I'm going to keep facing. But I never worked there. I never knew anybody that actually worked there, so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe actually it was the best thing ever, and I messed up. But kind of back to the point at hand, it is frustrating at times to have circumstances like that where you can tell that your social abilities were just in the trash can and not know if the fault is of the disorder of your own or both, or or if there's really fault at all. Maybe I perceive it as I bombed it and it really wasn't that bad and it actually was just fine, but they had another candidate with way better qualifications. Who knows? There's a multitude of reasons. So anyway, I guess that's kind of a tangent into trying to keep to the tradition of talking about my disorder, but it's just, if you ever want to get a look into my head as to kind of what thought processes go on with the disorder, that's definitely one of them. Of always kind of second guessing myself and wondering, what would a person in similar circumstances but without the disorder have done? Would they have done anything differently? Did I act rationally, or did I just act in a way that was completely opposite of what I had been doing? And I don't know. I don't know the answer. And I know I talked about in one of my previous ones that it's very frustrating that I don't always comprehend when certain things are happening to me. And because of that, it makes it very frustrating trying to deduce if there was anything I could have done differently to improve a circumstance that wasn't disorder related. I don't know. It's just frustration. That's just what I have is frustration. And further onto the topic of frustration here with my disorder is the hallucinations. Obviously been in a down cycle recently, and because of it, my hallucination frequency has picked up a bit. Now, Ted, my black figure that I've talked about before, he's not shown, thankfully. At least not that I've noticed. I can't get a positive ID on him. But there was 2 notable hallucinations that did happen, to where I it was very, very irritating. The first one was I was laying in bed, and repeatedly in my mirror, I had seen something behind me. Every single time I was looking at that thing, I seen something behind me. And I'd turn around and nothing. And I turn back around, I always tend to always sleep on my left side. That's just how I sleep, right? So that's why I keep turning back around. I would look over at the mirror, and it'd be moving, and there again, and I'd know I see it, and I don't know why I kept playing this game with myself, because I knew it has to be a hallucination. It was just like, I don't know, sit somebody in front of something and tell them, now don't look. Like, you ain't allowed to look. Don't look. And of course, the first thing you want to do is look. You want to see what is it? What is behind you? Even if you know there's actually nothing. It's just the humor in your head of you have to know. The curiosity is killing you. You have to know. And I kept doing that over and over and over. And I tossed and turned and could not keep a steady sleep. I had broken up my sleep into like a 4 or 5 hour block that night. In total is how much sleep I had. And it was in spurts of like 30 to 40 minutes before I'd wake up, see the same thing, turn around, it's not there, and do that a few times over before I'd say, screw it, close my eyes, and repeat the process. And that was very, very irritating, because it kind of gives an insight into the lack of judgment with hallucinations in those current circumstances of when it's actively happening. You're not thinking logically. You're not thinking about it in the stance of, well, if I just ignore it, it's going to go away. That's not what you're thinking. It's always a curiosity, kind of a, well, if I turn around, will I see more, or what is behind me? Is there something behind me? And no matter how many times you play that game over and over and over again, definition of insanity here, you're just at the same point. Every single time, you're at the exact same point. It's not going to change. But I can only see that logically after that little hallucination episode has ended, is the time that I can logically deduce what happened. During that actual episode of it, I'm not thinking logically. I'm not realizing or having the self-awareness to put a break on it and say, you got to stop feeding into this and just chill. Another good example. So there is a difference between hallucinations and a misinterpretation, okay? Or an illusion, I should say. Where a hallucination is a figment of something that's not there, of something that just isn't actually present. A illusion, or I like to call them a misinterpretation, is seeing something differently than what is actually there. So let's say you have a phone in your hand, and you pick it up, and at first you think it's a notepad, and then realize it's your phone, right? That would be a good example of a misinterpretation. It is there. You do physically have an object, but it's not the correct object. Now, sometimes my hallucinations like to kind of play into this misinterpretation field. There is something there, but what I'm seeing is inconsistent with what is true. And it can take all sorts of very weird forms. One of the more popular ones for me, I like to call them tracers, where a object or a set of objects will seem to have kind of a latency behind them. If you've ever, seen maybe a low FPS game where the frames are following behind what you're actually looking at, sort of that effect. And it's just a misinterpretation of what I'm seeing. The object is there, but kind of the information I'm gathering from it is not correct. And when I was driving yesterday, I had an incident where I was coming up on a yellow flashing light. and I was not aware it was yellow. I was aware it was a flashing light. I seen red. I had seen that it was a red flashing light, and I don't have any difficulties identifying color. Just for me, in my world, that light was positively red. So I came to a complete stop in the middle of the highway before my roommate politely informed me that is indeed not a red light, that is a yellow light. Why are you stopping? And then I looked at him, looked back at the light, and it was yellow. It had been yellow the entire time. It was just a flashing yellow yield light. That's all it was. And that was exceptionally irritating, because that was a good example of something to where I'm showing these symptoms and I'm not able to control it, and I'm having problems. Another key trait that tends to happen during my downswings that was more alarming to my mom than anything a lot of times while I was living with her, is my memory skills. So because my brain is moving so slowly and having a hard time processing things around me, not even going to talk about my lack of motivation and stuff. This is the first productive thing I've done today, and it's already 3:24 in the afternoon. Like, I've just been dead, and I slept like 12 or 13 hours again last night. So you see kind of the issue feeding in here. Anyway, my memory during these points are really bad, and I will very much forget the task I have at hand while I'm doing them. I kind of, I'm almost like a squirrel in that matter. I will know I need to do something, but I won't know what. Like I can remember there's something important I need to do, but I can sit there and think, and it's left my head. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I just know there's something I'm supposed to be doing. So if I click around or doodle around enough with stuff, I will figure it out, right? Surely, if it was important enough, I guess. And a lot of times that's evident in terms of me trying to navigate my phone when I need to, like for instance, driving. I always pull up YouTube Music because YouTube Music is way better than Spotify. Prove me wrong. And Google Maps. And a lot of times, especially like yesterday, I will sit there for almost a minute staring at my phone, and I have one app pulled up but not the other. And I'm trying to remember, what was I doing? What was I getting ready to pull up? Why am I sitting here looking at this phone right now? And it's very, very infuriating to me when that happens. And I remember when I was younger, it used to scare me. I used to think, I was like, man, I got to be the youngest person in human history with Alzheimer's. That's what's happening, right? Like, I'm losing my mind, and this is the consequences of it. But it's not the case. It's just an attention span issue. I do so believe. It's not really a memory issue. It's my attention is so focused on the other things in my head that I'm losing focus on what I should be doing, and trade it's causing me to forget what I was even actively trying to succeed at. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot, especially during my down cycles. It's very prevalent, and it's very irritating and frustrating. And so the point of today's rant here is that this disorder, is very frustrating. I was watching one of my friends last night. I was kind of complaining to them about these hallucinations, telling them how frustrated I am about feeding into this whole routine I just told you about. And they were asking a bit more about bipolar disorder, and so I always keep a video on hand that's kind of a brief little 5-minute video that really goes in depth as behind what is bipolar disorder, what types it is, the difference between type 1, type 2, and what theories are there that is believed to cause and why bipolar disorder gets worse in time without treatment. And one of the key points from this video, and I will go over it sometime on here, is more or less saying that bipolar disorder is not the entire character of a person, but it does underline everything they do. And I I feel like there's an internal battle with myself sometimes. I feel like there is a lot of times that the bipolar disorder is me. Like like my whole personality, my everything, my life is just built around this disorder and trying to fight it all the time, every day. And I don't know how I feel about that. It's so infuriating because it shouldn't be that case. I have these neutral periods where or like these highs that, when it's not too extreme, where I can go weeks on end perfectly normal. And I ain't even thinking about my disorder. And then I'll have these times where it's getting so bad that it's all that's on my head and it's defining everything I do. And I'm like, well, I don't want to start on this or that because I already know, my cycle's getting ready to flip. So there's no point in starting now because I'm going to be in a different spot in a week. And it's hard. It's hard not to let the disorder control you and not to let it take control of everything around you, the people you interact with, the relationships you care so much for. I'm no saint, trust me. I do a lot better now than I did when I was younger, 18, 19. I really sucked back then. I did a lot of bad things. I said a lot of bad things to people. And gosh, the amount of regret I have for that is never ending. There's so many people I wish I could bring back into my life, but I burnt that bridge when I was younger, doing and saying very stupid things. And because of that, they won't ever speak to me again. And I don't really blame them. Looking at it from the other side, I don't blame them at all. And I used to be really, really, really bad with, I had a very bad pill addiction. I ain't gonna bother telling you about what pills and things like that. It was stupid. It was very stupid. But I had a very bad pill addiction that I had started in on when I was 19. And it just got worse. It kept getting worse. There was no end in sight. And no matter how much my friends and my family tried to help me break this addiction, I just couldn't do it. And I lost so many people and friends around me due to my ways while I was, under the influence. And I don't know, I regret it. It's so unfair to everybody else that they had to deal with that. And I am a person that believes in karma. I don't really have an established religion, but if you were to try to throw some sort of religious belief at me, it's going to be karma. I do believe in the idea that if you do good, good will come to you. If you do bad, bad will come to you. And it sometimes almost feels like it's kind of karma biting me in the butt of, I did and said all these bad things. So now that I've made what I feel is great efforts to try to turn my life around, I get to deal with some of the consequences from that. I really am rambling now, ain't I? Yeah. I guess how we can tie this to bipolar 1 disorder is you can see the train of thoughts I have during my down cycles of how it's a negative feedback loop, and maybe this is a moment of me being self-conscious or being self-aware, but having hallucination pretty bad right now. I think. I wish there was somebody else in this room. I swear something fell from up there down here. But I looked around and there's nothing. And either my blood pressure, maybe my blood pressure is high, or I'm just tired. I slept so much, but I'm still so exhausted. But everything has like the tracers I was talking about. The room is alive, and I don't know if that's me or I have a history of my blood pressure sometimes getting a bit high. That was usually due to the drugs. I'm wondering if maybe it ain't my blood pressure is a bit high because I'm stressed out right now. Looking for jobs, things like that, and just trying to function. But all right, I guess this kind of play good example. The more I play into it, the worse it's gonna get. Right. The more I keep acknowledging it, the worse I'm gonna make myself. So I gotta stop. Shoot, where even was I? Oh, the negative feedback loop. So so when I'm in these down cycles, you can kind of see this negative feedback loop that's happening in my head over. Yeah, I'm definitely hallucinating over and over and over again. Um, and this whole rambling rant I've just had with you on this is a very good example of what that looks like. Of I'm just bouncing from one negative thought to another, like goddamn fucking negative Norm, pick yourself up. But it's just frustrating, right? It's frustrating. I feel like it's frustrating to hear it, and let alone to be in it, and it's just this never-ending loop. And I will sit for days in this depression state, just with these negative thoughts constantly going, and they always like self-harm thoughts, right? I didn't express at any point in this little rant a self-harm thought, but it was all just negative. It was all this sucks, that sucks, this is stressing me out, that's stressing me out. And it's a good example of how I can go from somebody that is very driven, and professional and pushing to talk with everybody and be everybody's friend, to where I'm in this negative loop, and um I lost my train of thought. Where I'm in this negative loop, and I'm struggling to break it. I'm struggling to not feed into it. It and it makes it harder on everybody else too. Even while I'm in the best of environments with people I love hanging around, normally it just doesn't matter, and it's so infuriating. It's so infuriating. And what's kind of at least comforting about this part of the bipolar disorder, maybe minus the hallucinations, is I feel like a lot of people have had depression. They can kind of understand where I'm coming from when I'm complaining about this negative feedback loop that just keeps playing out. And yeah. Sorry, my brain is way too active right now, obviously. Like, yeah, way too active. It is going haywire right now, and I don't know why. I know I've had enough sleep. I've had a combined total of at least 8, even if we count me tossing and turning and waking up and doing stuff throughout the night. I know I've had a total of at least 8. I was in bed for freaking 12 to 13 hours. So I don't know. I had that coffee yesterday. Maybe that, I don't ever have caffeine. Maybe that played a part, but it's already been more than 10 hours, so it should be out of my system by now. And I don't even think that makes logical sense. Maybe it's the glasses. This is an old prescription. No, it's not the glasses. See, I don't know. My other glasses are a bit bent, so I don't wear them when I'm doing anything formal. And I'm wondering if maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me from the glasses. Let's try to put on my other ones real quick here. Does that help? No. No, it does not. It's not the glasses. It's not the glasses. I almost feel like I don't want to upload this. Now it's going to feel like clickbait, right? It's kind of what... I mean, if you were trying to gain internet fame off a disorder, it'd be the way to do it, right? I don't like that idea. I don't like somebody thinking I'm just trying to chase some sort of stardom from it. It's not very common. Actually, this is the first time I've ever managed on video to capture myself really struggling with hallucinations and this little cycle, but that makes me almost not want to upload it because I don't want people just to think that I'm faking it or that I'm doing it for attention or views or stuff like that. And then I almost feel like the more I say that's the exact opposite of the point of this, and this is for me myself to document, and it's just uploaded out there to so other people can witness it if they so desire. I almost feel like then you can make the argument, well, if that's true, why do you say it every time? That's a good point. But I say it every time because I'm always worrying about it. I'm worrying somebody will misconstrue it. It's the same reason I don't talk about my disorder with my friends a lot of times, because I almost feel like it's a cry for help, or not really help, for attention, right? Like, if somebody's super depressed, you don't want to sit down and listen to them rant for 20 minutes about how they would rather die because their life is so horrible, you know, because Mr. Whiskers died last week and now you can't live on without him, right? Like, grow up, get over yourself. Nobody wants to listen to that. I don't know. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe I don't know. Regardless, I got to get productive today. I have to get productive today. You know, this is point one of my productivity today. I have some adulting I have to get done. I need more job apps done. I got to double and crack down on getting a job, or I'm going to just sit here and go even more crazy just because of boredom of nothing to do. Like, damn. Oh, I'm driving myself nuts. I am driving myself nuts. I swear there's bugs in this room. I swear there is. I know there's not. Like, I logically know there's not. Well, maybe minus like a centipede probably somewhere, because those things have been invading me recently. But like flies and stuff. But I know there's not. Because the second it's out of my sight, it's gone for good. You know, and it doesn't land anywhere. And I don't think they fly in straight lines. I wouldn't say flying insects fly in straight lines. Would you? I think they're kind of on curves. I think they would fly on curves, right? Because I wonder something, actually. I've never looked this up. I wonder if a bug, if them flapping their wings is an active thought or just a reflex of the body. Because if it's just a reflex of the body, it would be understandable that it'd keep about the same rhythm. Whereas if it's an active thought, yeah, it's probably going to be on a curve because they're going to be actively having to flap at a certain rate. Interesting thought. I'm just trying to distract myself a little bit. right now. But yeah, it's almost at the 40-minute mark. I gotta stop. I don't know if I'm uploading this. If I do, I guess it'll be there. I guess you'll see it. But maybe I'll think about that later tonight. Maybe I'll try that later tonight. Kind of forgot what I was going to say at first. Oh yeah. It. I know I'm bouncing around from topic to topic here, but I'm pretty confident my brain is not going 1,000 miles an hour. Like I haven't. I don't just sit around and bounce topic to topic to topic at this rate. Usually, when it's going 1,000 miles an hour, it's much faster than this, and I usually can't continue a certain single train of thought without, exploding into other totally irrelevant things. That was a weird little glitch there. The AI don't really like that. Don't know. Anyway, it's been a very interesting time so far since I've gotten here. And yeah, thanks for listening, I guess. I think I'm gonna try to be productive. So, wish me luck.